Welcome everybody, it's Marta from SubQuery. This lesson is dedicated to indexing Substrate event alongside Moonbeam data, so let's jump in. The plan is that we'll index Substrate native event in our project, in existing project from the last lesson. So we will add collatorJoined event and we will index it alongside the data that we already have, and we will update all the files accordingly. So schema.graphql, project.yaml, and mappingHandlers. And just a quick recap what we have done so far. So in the last lesson, we initialized a SubQuery project with the usage of SubQuery CLI. We went through all the repo, we learned about different files, and we explore all of that. We've managed to index some data, which we index all transfer events and approval calls for SolarBeam. And at the end, we saved it all in database, and we also played a little bit with GraphQL Playground after we deployed it locally with Docker. So let's get back to our project and let's index some Substrate data. Okay, we are now in our project in manifest file. This is how it looks after our last lesson, and let's start by adding a new data source to our manifest file. We will add it here on the bottom. I have it already prepared, so it's faster. Right. So let's now compare, right? Here we had Substrate, Frontier, EVM kinds, and here we have Substrate, no EVM. We picked this start block for our event, collatorJoined, because this is where it starts. The mapping file here is given by default, and it's the same in every data source. You should not change it, maybe for more advanced operations. And then we have our handler. The handler collatorJoined, the name of it has to match the name of the function in mapping files. And here we have a kind Substrate event handler, and also module and method, parachain staking and joined collator candidates. And I want to quickly show you where to search for proper methods and modules and their names. There are plenty of good resources. Some of them will be linked below this lesson, but I want to show you one, the Polkadot .js.org Explorer, and let's jump in. Okay, so here we are, Polkadot.js.org Explorer. I already have chosen proper parachain, so remember to set it right, and then if you have a block hash or number to query, you can use it here. I have ours, and here is all the information that we need, and we can clearly see that we have our parachain staking and joined collator candidates. Okay, let's get back to manifest file. Okay, one thing more that we would need to do is to change the starter block for Frontier EVM event, so it will be easier to index. Here we have it. That's it for the manifest file. Let's get to schema file right now. Okay, here is our schema file where we define entities, and of course we need to add a new one, which is collator, and I already have something prepared. So let's take a look. We have a new entity with ID and interesting property joined date. And we will need to create a proper function in mapping files to make sure that we create collator, and of course we save all the data that is needed for those properties. So that's it for schema file. And please remember, if you change anything in schema.graphql, you need to regenerate your associated TypeScript, so you need to run yarn code gen. Okay. So that's it for schema.graphql file. Let's go to mappingHandlers file. So, okay, this is our mappingHandlers file. Let's add a new method at the end, which will allow you which will allow us to create collator and save it into our database. Let's paste the code that I previously prepared. So let's take a look. We just added a new function here, which creates collator and also saves it in the database with proper properties, ID and join date. As you can see, we have missing types here, so we need to add it on top of the file. So we are missing Substrate event, and we are of course missing collator, and that should be fine. The next step would be to run yarn code gen, yarn build, and then of course set up Docker. So let's bring the terminal. You know those commands, we practiced all of it last time, but make sure to not forget about the proper order. Please note that this time we didn't reindex all the project from the beginning after adding a new property to collator entity. If we want to do that, then what we need to do is to remove data folder and then clean up all containers in Docker and start indexing from the beginning. So in this case, that's okay with us, but please remember that if you want to have updated data, you need to start indexing from beginning. And what it means cleaning Docker containers, starting from beginning, and of course removing this folder here. But for us, for now, that's good. Let's just run Docker and wait a little bit, and let's jump to GraphQL playground and see what data are we querying. Okay, we already see that node started on port 3000, so we can jump to our playground, GraphQL playground, and see what's the result of our query. Okay, here we are. Let's just prepare our query. Let's take a look. Approvals, transaction, collators. This line here we can remove. Let's press play. Okay, here we have all the approvals with proper data, all 5 transactions, first 5, and collators with join date. Amazing. That's it. We've managed to index EVM data alongside Substrate data. Congrats. So that's it. Amazing. Let's just go through what we have done in this lesson. So we applied several changes to our project to allow it to index also Substrate data alongside Moonbeam data. So we added collatorJoined handler to our data sources in project manifest file to get the data from Substrate. Then we needed to add the collator entity to GraphQL schema file. Also, we did that. And then we created new function, collatorJoined, and added it to mapping files. This function creates entity and saves it into our database. And as a result, we are indexing a record of every collator that has joined Moonbeam. Amazing. That's it for this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your feedback, and I see you in the lesson 4. Bye.